before, and I'd always be like, yeah, we're gonna go fishing. Yeah, let's go fishing, you know, throw some bait, take her out on the boat. Nothing ever happened. I did not have the luck for it. Frank at the last minute last summer said, okay, we're going now. And when he gives you a warning, let's go, it's like, you got like 20 minutes. So you jump on the boat. We went out, put one bait on one hook, and dropped it down. And she sunk a hook right into a giant fish. I still got the picture. Her smile was touching from ear to ear. It was amazing. She's here today. She's probably hiding now. I'm telling this story, but she had a great time. And
what was the name of the boat?
Oh, yeah. It was funny because the next day we were going to go fishing again, and she asked, are we going to go fishing on the Furry? Pretty funny.
Frank was Frank. He didn't mince words. And he told me one time we were having microwave chicken for dinner, which is one of his standbys down in the Chris Craft down here after fishing all day. And Frank stands there and he says, you know, I'm the man of simple means. And I'm looking around the Chris Craft and here's some colored pictures that his grandkids had made with crayons, and a couple of photographs of his family, and a couple of typos. And I thought, you know, Frank does not mince words at all. He had one sentence said it all. I could look and see he is as simple and old school as they get. And I'll never forget that. He was something else. Let's see, I had other things I wanted to say, but I can't remember what.
He's been my friend since he was 3.5 years old. 3.5 years old, and we would call each other on our birthdays every year. And this time he didn't call me back, but I found out all the bad news. But he's the best man I ever knew. And anybody that was Frank's friend really got to meet somebody special.
Amen.
You're here. No? Raise your hand, Marilyn. Anyway, we had some good times. Frank learned how to swim. We went to Santa Cruz with my dad. My mom wanted him out of the house for some reason, so he said, Donnie, go get your friend Frank and let's go to Santa Cruz. So we went swimming in the saltwater pool, and Frank didn't know how to swim at the time. And we left there, and he knew how to swim. Because the salt water has more buoyancy.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to learn how to swim. But there's so many things we did. We got an old nail barrel one time. The old nail barrel looked like a wine barrel. Yeah. And we stuck it in a wagon. And we filled it with water, and we'd take turns driving up and down the sidewalk inside the barrel. Yeah, it was kind of like those two kids, what do they call them, game?
Little rascal.
Yeah, Little Rascal. This mindset to do all the time. We built a fort out of old wood, and we had a sign on no girls allowed. I don't know if you remember that. And later on, we kind of grew out of that. But we were just having a lot of fun. We go to Martin's Beach, we'd be in Martin's Beach, and they call him Preacher Frank at Martin's Beach. Preacher Frank, yeah.
Why?
I'll probably tell you some stories about that.
Why was he a preacher?
Oh, he's just an stand-up guy. You know, he just didn't like to see anything go haywire or wrong, you know. Very honest man. Really good.
How many people remember Frank's Isuzu diesel? Yeah. Frank's mission in life for many years was to keep that thing alive. And I got a call one night, about 10 o'clock at night, and he said, I need some help. And I said, what's up? He said, well, I didn't make it over the hill. So I go up and I get in my truck and I drive up here and meet him, and we load some stuff up out of his storage, and we go halfway up the hill up here, and here's the Isuzu diesel, and the right front wheel had fallen all the way off. And it's kind of pitch-pulled into the road. So we dragged it off the road. The groove is still there, cutting into the road. And the next day, he had a commercial tow truck bring it back down in, and then he sat there for a week, because he couldn't get the part. He took the front A-frame member off, and he cut the hole out, and he welded in a strip of metal, and he sat there, it looked like some third world country, he sat there in a folding chair with a file, filing it out, till the new suspension parts would fit in, and he got it back on the road. And I said to him at the time, I said, Frank, isn't it maybe time to consider, and he looked at me and went, what? What? And then he told me he looked at the front seat of my truck, the driver's seat one day, which was all worn out. And he said, you know what you do? You do what I did with the Isuzu. You take the passenger seat out and move it over. And I said, well, yeah, but Frank, then I can't take the passenger. And he said, why would you want to take the passenger? And one other quickie. I live on the end of Dock 3, and the Fury is docked about halfway down Dock 3. And Frank was frequently on the Fury, making up tackle, getting ready for a trip. And I come home from the grocery store, pushing my cart down the dock. And Frank would step off the boat and he'd go, I know you. And I'd go, well, what do you mean you know me? He said, I know you've got cookies. I never got past the Fury without giving it. I also want to say, this place that we're in right now was for a very long time Frank's living room. And Frank would sometimes, some of you may have had this experience, occasionally he would talk about politics. Yeah. And we went through a period of time here where our Verizon cell phone service dropped off. And we were all calling Verizon because Verizon was the only thing that worked out here. And Verizon wouldn't admit that anything had gone wrong, and they were kind of shining us on. So Frank was showing me his phone one day. He's trying to get me to help him figure out how to do something. And I said, well, Frank, just take it over to the Verizon store in Los Cerritos. And he said, I can't go there anymore. I said, Frank, why is that? And well, I went in there and I explained to them that the capitalist communist pigs had taken over. And that's why they didn't give a damn whether or not they gave us good service anymore. And I said, well, that doesn't sound that offensive. And he said, well, I wasn't particularly quiet about it. So Frank had to find a different Verizon store to go to. So anyway, we love him and we miss him. And he will be here pretty much forever, I think.
Amen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Franks. There's one right there. Only Frank would never wear that hat. That's what it is. My husband Bob and I have lived here for 20 years, or almost 30 years. And so anytime I always called him Francis. Nice Catholic schoolboy. And if I just stopped to talk to him for a second, it was never a second. I had to get the true history of the United States of America. Anybody else know about that book? Oh yeah. Frank highly recommended it. It tells the truth about it. But I miss him him so much. I know y'all do. He was the genuine, the real deal. He was a fabulous human being, strong, yet soft. Didn't smile that much. I don't know where they got all these pictures.
About fishing with Frank, we always talked about his family. And that was his favorite subject, was his girls, his grandkids, and I'm that type of person you talk that stuff with. So we spent many good hours talking about family and what matters to him. So kids and grandkids, he loved a great big.
Eric, you don't have any stories, do you?
I think you can tell.
What a great man. My friend Frank, he taught me a lot. He taught me how to be a better man. Fishing was his life, and it was such a joy to go out in the bay with him, because even if you caught a little one, he was right there over your shoulder like a kid in a candy store, jumping up and down and screaming, pull it in, don't lose it, don't lose it. We had so much fun fishing, and he taught me so much. When we came to the harbor here, I didn't know anything about fishing in this area. And by the time we left, we were pretty proficient at it. Frank taught me everything, took me out all the time, took the time to teach me everything. Great guy. I really enjoyed Frank, and I truly miss him.
So, about 2 years ago, I think it was, the new owners of the harbor have some friends who were in Burning Man. And they had a fundraiser for a particular guy in Burning Man. What's his name, Jeff?
Robert Burke. Yeah.
And it was an event to end all events. I mean, it was amazing. It started out here outside, and then at that point, the club was still the club, which meant that Frank and I were slated to bartend back here. And
Frank was bartend for all the dancing he was doing.
yes. So people start gravitating inside for the evening part of the festivities. And Frank and I aren't real clear on what's happening here. So at one point, the door opens and a throne comes through the door, comes over and sits down right here. And then the honoree comes through and sits down. And then we hear in the distance a marching band. And then the marching band, a full, large marching band, comes through the door of the club. And these are all adults, and they're all playing incredibly well. And my kids stayed the flighties, the flight girls. They were
Luchadors.
they were provocative. And so we now have a full marching band in here playing, and I'm worried about Frank, because Frank was a little sensitive about the band. Has anyone ever experienced Frank's sensitivity about this? Yeah. And so I turn around and look, and here the tuba player is sitting on the bar. And it is so loud, you can barely hear yourself think. And people are doing this. And the whole place is shaking. And I'm thinking, oh God, Frank's going to have a fit. And I turn around and I look. And he's over there behind the bar. And he's rolled up 2 paper towels and he has them hanging out together. He didn't tear them off, he's got them hanging out together. And he's dancing up a storm. Waving his hands in the air. He's having the greatest time. And it's one of those moments you wish you had the whole thing on video. It would have gone viral. So that's one of my fondest memories of Frank. And I went back and stood next to him, and we attempted to have a conversation, which was nearly impossible. He did let me know he approved of the Fly Girls. And he actually, I think that day spent a lot of time flirting. Yeah, he had a very good time.
I was lucky enough that I've had a number of cars, company trikes, all sorts of things, and Frank was the guy that would whip out his welding set and fix those things once Eric left for parts unknown. But I had a lot of other experiences with Frank too. I had a boat, a sailboat here, and I think I hold the record for the number of times it was stuck in the mud. And one day, I'm in my slip. I was right next to the Fury at the time, and I said, Frank, how come I get stuck all the time? And I'm following the route that Eric showed me. And he goes, well, God damn it, Eric's got a powerboat. Get a sailboat. He goes, you don't want to follow that route. He doesn't draw any water. So he showed me his GPS and plotted out a nice route. And I never got stuck after that, as long as I watched the tides. He also liked to feed me for some reason. And remember, I was just coming down the dock one day to come into the club, or leaving the club, and Frank was outside with an ice chest next to him, and he goes, do you eat fish? And I go, well, of course I eat fish. He goes, I give you some fish. Will you eat it tonight? I don't want you to put it in the freezer. I go, no, I'll definitely eat it. I mean, he must have given me 2 pounds of halibut that night, which Sue and I had several meals off of that. But the most memorable one, I was coming home from work, and I went into the kitchen to borrow a big kettle to make some chili for work. And Frank was in there with, I think, Dave and a couple of other folks, and he had an electric skillet there, and he was frying up some fish and some other stuff. And he goes, hey, Peter, you want something? And it turned out to give me a piece of this delicious stuff. Wow. Frank, that's incredible. What is that? Now, I'm getting older. I could have sworn he said it was turkey. So I take, he goes, well, here's some for Sue. And he puts a little paper plate out, and he puts the stuff on it. I go home and give it to Sue, and she goes, wow, that was incredible. What was it? Frank said it was turkey. So, like a week later, we're walking into the club, and Frank's here. And Sue goes up to him and he goes, Frank, thank you so much for that turkey. That was incredible. How did you make it? He goes, turkey? What the hell are you talking about? Because last week, Peter brought home this plate. He goes, God damn it, that was sturgeon, for crying out loud. Like I said, I've had a number of interesting conversations with him up on the levee while he's working on something of mine, or I'm helping him move something of his. And I'm really going to miss him. He was the face of the marina.
This one time, I had first moved my boat here to the harbor. I was tied up at the end of this first dock here. And we had a really, really nasty storm like we just had, 60-mile-an-hour gusts. And it was unbelievable. So a lot of people here at the harbor came to help, but Frank was one of them too. I remember him coming. The gust had hit my boat and ripped the cleats out of the dock, and the boat was swinging out there. I was just getting my workboat, trying to push it back to the dock, and I'm sitting here screaming, help, 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 and you were there, everybody was there. Everybody showed up to help me, It's like a good community we got here. Frank was one of them. And then a few days later, we were expecting another storm. And, by then I had the boat tied up all nice, and was talking to Frank, and he goes, hey, you need any help tying up your boat over there? I'm like, oh, no, I got it. Why? He's like, because I don't want any more of this help, help. He didn't miss a chance to give you a rash. So that was a good one. And then, we were just talking earlier too, like when I go out on the boat with him, first thing he'd pop on that 2-meter radio and be like, hey, soul man, you out there?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you out there? You're talking on the radio, so you can't catch anything. Anyway, I'm not good with, long stories, so long story short.
On Mary Ann, she's going to take a seat for hers and read it, but she loved Frank a lot, and she just wants to tell a couple stories and how much he meant to us. I'm really nervous, so. But she's going to do an awesome job, right? And I just want to say, she was here almost every day since Frank was diagnosed, out in the harbor helping her out. So let's just give Andy, Tony, hey, give up.
Sit here.
I just want to thank all of you for coming here to honor my brother Frank. My name is Mary Ann, and because I'm Frank's younger sister, there's not been a day when I did not have him in my life to protect me and guide me. Although he was only 4 years older than me, he was like a parent every step of the way. I remember when I was 13 years old working at a fast food restaurant. Frank would be sitting in his 57 salmon-colored Plymouth, raised in the back, in the parking lot, sometimes for hours, making sure that there weren't any guys trying to pick up me or my sister. Frank was always there for me through thick and thin. He loved family and was devoted, and a super father and a super uncle. A devoted father and a super uncle is what I meant to say. Frank's two passions in life, besides his love of family, were mechanics and fishing, both which started to develop at a very early age. When our aunt handed down her big, huge TV, he immediately dissected it. Once he figured out the mechanics of it, he was repairing it, and everyone else's in the neighborhood, along with radios and anything else that had tubes in it. Then came cars, first working on families, then friends, and then his own. So much so that my mom was constantly complaining about the used auto parts and engines left behind in our yard. It started to look like a junkyard. Frank also figured out there was more than one way to get an A in class. He actually rebuilt one of his high school teacher's cars. Frank was always eager to help family, friends, and with their mechanical problems, and never hesitated to share his knowledge. Later, he would attend Laney College, become a certified diesel mechanic, and start work at Delta Trucking Lines, where he became a foreman for many years. Frank's love of fishing was most likely influenced by my dad, who would take us fishing on the Berkeley Pier and to Crockett. We also spent summer vacations at Martins Beach and Half Moon Bay, where Frank learned to make 1- and 2-man nets and participate in smelt runs. When the manager of the beach put out the word that the smelt were running, all the kids would pile up in the back of the pickup truck and head for the other side of the beach, where they would throw out the nets into the surf and catch the smelt. The rest of us were eagerly waiting with our buckets to pick up the fish that they would empty from the nets. Catching them was fun, but eating them was even better. And when Frank was about 8 or so, he would go fishing to the Oakland estuary. Sometimes catching a ride with an older friend and sometimes walking. Since we lived on 92nd Avenue in Oakland, it was a long way for a little boy of 8 years old. I distinctly remember the day he walked all the way home from there with a fishing hook stuck in his finger. Since my mom did not drive, we had to take the bus to the emergency room and then wait hours before the doctor removed it. It was the first time it hurt me so much to see my brother in pain. Obviously, that incident didn't change Frank's passion for fishing. Frank was the least pretentious person I have known. It was all about honesty, integrity, commitment. What you see is what you've got. A man of his word. No BS. Yes, Frank could be grumpy at times. Much of which I can attribute to the aftermath of a bitter divorce many years ago and his disgust over what was happening in D.C. And I'm sure, she's from D.C. I'm sure most of you have heard about the corporate pigs.
Oh, yeah. Corporate pigs.
I have one little story I want to tell you because Rob mentioned something about the Isuzu. When I moved to Colorado, I came home for a holiday, and Frank decided he was going to come visit me. He hadn't seen my home yet, so he said, "Oh, I'll take you back." I go, "Okay," so he shows up in the Isuzu to get me. So I get in there, and we drive straight through, bathroom stops only. It was like total torture. I mean, it took me a week to get straightened out.
You're lucky there was still a seat.
Good point. Frank was a loving father to his 2 daughters and grandchildren and was very supportive of their sports and interests and enjoyed spending time with them. He was a loving brother and uncle that had always been there for my daughters and to our family through thick and thin. We are thankful to have his love, but he will be sorely missed. And I can't begin to express the gratitude I have for all the love and support that the Harbor and the Harbor family here have. I can begin to say the names, but you know who you are. And I just appreciate everything you've done for us, and you continue to do so. And without your love and your support, Frank would have never been able to spend the last 6 weeks of his life at home on his boat in San Pablo Harbor, where he wanted to be. Thank you.
To Frank, and then also Mary Ann and Tony.
All right, Bill.
Love you, Frank.
We miss you.
We miss you.
Frank, my buddy Frank. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Frank's son. And a lot of people would act, that's right. So my real name is Don. Most people know me by my boat, Soul Man. And Frank, he kind of adopted me. And he used to tell people, 30, 35 years ago, I had an affair with a black woman. And then he showed up. And so, any of you that ever fished with Frank, we had a unique relationship on a daily basis. And it's a little hard. I'm not gonna lie, I don't come up to this bay, I hear that voice. And some days I make a bad move fishing, and then I think, you dumb SOB, didn't I teach you better? You never listen. And one thing Frank always used to say, everybody's entitled to my opinion, whether you liked it or not. So I do have 2 stories for you. And Rob, I do remember Frank going to that party because the next day he decked on my boat and he was no good. But I have this particular charter that comes out of Murphy's, and there's all women. And one of them was single, and Frank was kind of being frank and being very nice. And he kind of said to me, boy, she's really forward to me. And I said, well, of course, Frank, you know why? He goes, why? I said, because she said you look like Sean Connery. And so every time they come, was Sean going to be on the boat? And Frank would always say, I got to be on that trip. I got to be on that trip. And then they would feed him and flirt with them, and Frank would have a good time. And, I remember this past summer, one of those impromptu Soul Man parties showed up on Jefferson Street, because I docked down at the wharf. And Frank, of all people, he liked Bruno Mars. And one day it started playing on my radio, and Frank said, turn it up. And then he grabbed a beer and he started shimmying. And I said, Frank, I knew you could dance, but this doesn't look like the jitterbug. I didn't know you could do that to Bruno Mars. The other thing that I probably, and then I got this from one of the past wardens, a guy named Bob Wright. And he told me that Frank and Barney where they had a charter. It was, again, an all-female charter. And the wardens noticed that there was some niceness upon the boat to be seen. So they decided to come and do an inspection and check all the fish. So as they came up, Frank said, "Okay, girls," and they all mooned the warden. I'm trying to think, I'm wondering what part of this did Frank really look at? But, I mean, with Frank, it was about family. Didn't matter if it was the harbor, didn't matter if it was blood family, it was about family. That's how he was.
Yes.
And, you know, every day I drive up here, I hear him. So, anyway, to Frank, my buddy.
Somebody made a comment earlier about Frank's just having few possessions and he was a man of few things, and I just really admired that he would show up with a duffel bag and a sleeping bag, and he never wanted to be an inconvenience. He just wanted to come have a stay, and as a kid, I was like, how is he showing up for a week? He would just bring this little tiny bag. But Frank was just a man of few possessions, and he was Frank, and he had the typical Frank outfit that he would wear, maybe a couple different sweatshirts he'd cycle through, but that was Frank's uniform, his outfit. But fishing with Frank was always the best memory as a kid, coming up here and being able to share the boat with him. I think all of us through the family would have those memories of going out on the boat and being able to watch somebody who has such a passion for fishing. It was just so cool to see somebody that was there. He found what he loved and he did it. And he was so amazing to everyone that went out on the boat. And he shared that. You could see his excitement, like Eric mentioned, kid in the candy shop. That was him when you got something on the line, and he was always ready to take you out. I would call him up the day before or a week before saying, hey, I'm going to be in town with some friends or my kids, and he would always take a day to take us out from the harbor, and he was so excited to be able to share that with us. With the love of cars, whenever he would come to visit wherever we were, he would, hey, what do you need done on your car? We had a Ford truck for a while, and he was so eager and excited again to share with us, hey, let's change that out, let's do this, let's change the glow plugs, and he loved being able to share that with the family. Another memory with fishing is he was always so meticulous about his boat, and he wanted to clean it up and get everything back together, and he was always very particular about getting the boat cleaned up after a long day's work. I admire that as well. But lastly, I think the love of family is something that I wanted to chat just quickly, is that he was always there. He would always come for the graduation or the baptism, or he every year would drive out to New York State to see Brooke and his 5 grandkids and spend a month out there. And I think that speaks greater than anything, is he was always there. And he asked me to scan his photos to share with his kids, and going through them, he had, for a man that was of so few possessions, he had photos of everyone in our family. Our baby photos from Jackie, Kevin, all the kids, Ashley, myself, our baptism photos, our graduation photos, and he was proud. He was really proud of his family. And I just want to share that because he was a proud uncle and father, and we are going to miss him very much.
Frank, like she said, he was a perfectionist. He was meticulous about everything. And whenever he saved myself, my dad, Don, a lot of times work on boats. He was just like the master mechanic. There was things I couldn't figure out. He would go down first thing. You sure you checked this line? Yes, I checked it, Frank. Here, let's pull it off and see. Boom, a leak. You know, they couldn't even see. He had to stick the hose in a bucket and blow air. He's like, see, it's leaking right there. It's like, well, there's no liquid coming out. He goes, yeah, it doesn't come out. It's sucking air in, and that's why your engine wouldn't run. But he helped me several times, and he always treated me, my dad, my mom, like family. He was a man of his words, and he basically just kept this harbor going. And I think, you know, just like somebody said it was his Harbor family. And if you knew Frank, he was always there for you. That's it. That's just one of the things that.
We first moved here over 20 years ago, and it just had bar stools and a couple chairs. And I remember saying to Frank and I first clashed. Marilyn, you probably remember this, because I said, why don't you put a couch here? And because this whole area was vacant or a couple of tables over there. Put a couch here. No, you can't put a couch here. Why not? Sit in front of the fire and make it nice. And I'm sitting on this couch and like over 20 years later and really enjoying it. He said, because people will just, you know who I'm talking about, people will just come here and sleep on the couch. And I'm like, but that's not a reason not to let the rest of us maybe sit on the couch. Do you remember Marilyn? And he and I, that was probably our first, and we kind of clashed on that, because I'm like, you should have a couch here. Interesting to see couches here now, 20 some odd years later. I hadn't thought about that, I'm just sitting on this couch. And all I just want to say is, Frank and I and Jed spent many times just the three of us. Frank behind the counter, always behind the bar, Jed and I right there, or ordered it, you know. We spent a lot of time together. I have a lot of great memories of him. Nothing profound to say, but can you all remember his unique voice?
Oh yeah.
Didn't he have a unique voice? That's what I'm saying. Remember that, and I remember many years ago even, and to this day, describing him as the man that he looked like the Gorton's fisherman. I mean, to me that's really, you know, I think he was a throwback. He's a real man, a real throwback, and they don't make men like that anymore. And I'm sure gonna miss that.
My name is Amy, and I've been a member 45 years, and here. I have a lot of memory here. Anyway, sometime I invite Frank my house for the dinner. And he say, oh, he's so excited, and come to the front door. And he looked at me, he said, Amy, don't say nothing. I know what I'm supposed to do before I get in the house. He took his shoes off, and he showed me his clean socks. And he said, I know, every time I come here, I'm supposed to take the shoes off because you are Japanese. I said, that's right. And he said, I take a shower too. And I put the clean socks. So I said, okay, you could come in. He said, oh, just shut up. Let's eat. I have a lot of memory. But ever since he passed away, I seen white socks once in a while. I remember last couple of weeks, I have a tear. Every time I see the socks, I have a tear. Because, anyway, I miss him so much. And all my family miss him very much. Bye.
I have never seen two such devoted sisters in my life.
You're here.
They were here for him. And we're here for him absolutely. And Frank and I were sitting and talking, and we were talking about life and stuff, and he was beginning a period of sort of reflecting on things. And he said, you have to have a code. And I didn't know what that meant initially. And then I realized as we talked longer that Frank really had a code. And it's a rare thing these days. Frank didn't rationalize decisions. He didn't make things easier for himself. He did things the way that in his life and his experience were the right way. And he did that for himself, and he did it for other people. The people who came and were lucky enough to go fishing with Frank, he called them his people.
Yeah.
And they were his people from the moment they came over that hill until they left at the end of the day. And I've reflected on that several times, and I'm still reflecting on it. This idea of having a code that you live by. And it's not something to make life easier for yourself, but I think it is something that when you leave life, you get to feel pretty good about.
I only knew Frank for the last 2 years, but I was really lucky because when I first came here, I drove down the road here, and I thought, you know what, this kind of feels like where I grew up in a way. And so then I met Frank, and I realized that I was actually in the presence of maybe in Zen or Buddhism. This was a master. There was something in me spoke to me that this was a special person. And so I started coming to the harbor maybe every week, and I would go on the ferry with Frank. He would be fixing things, and I was very lucky to spend this time with Frank, and we knew that we were in a special place. This place, for me, is the closest thing that I grew up in the country on the Big Island of Hawaii. And both Frank and I, we had this connection about this place that had a special kind of energy. And every time I came, I almost felt like I was coming to pray here, that I was coming to see the Master. And I think, that he would talk about the bay here, and, Frank was an ecologist, He loved the bay, he understood what kept the bay alive and how the bay needed to be sustained. He was always thinking about the big picture of telling, maybe you can let go of this big fish because it's going to keep breeding, another big fish again. And so, underneath the fisherman was really, Frank was an ecologist, he cared about the land. He had a special connection to the place here. And I think when we were together, we didn't have to talk very much. But we both knew that we were in a special place, and there was something special that we felt that was happening. And it's not often that you get to meet a great human being, And in the Chinese tradition, the character Tai is like this here, a great human being. And I got to meet a great human being. And a week after Frank passed away, I came to the harbor, went to the ferry, threw some flowers up the back, and Daryl invited me to, there was a jazz group here playing. So I was sitting here, we were both feeling really sad here, and then I was saying goodbye to Frank, and I looked up the window there, and I saw his face, and he said, who says I'm leaving? So, what a great honor. And also I want a real shout out to Frank's family. He, every year in November, he was getting ready to go to New York, and, he would tell me all the things that he's bringing, the fish, the abalone, and he would talk about his grandchildren and how he loved to go to the sports games with them. And so, your grandpa, loved you, and he just was so happy to be with you in New York. And I got to pester to Maryland a few times, but asking about Frank and how he was doing. But I feel very fortunate, that I got to meet a great human being. And thank you very much, Frank.
So I'm Frank's older daughter, Danielle. And over the last week, I started preparing some things to say, and I realized that I don't really have a lot to say that you all don't know about him, and you all have your own personal experiences with him that you'll leave here with. And there's not much I can say to top that. But what I do want to say that I think is, and I pray that all of you leave here remembering and you take with you that when something's going on with your health, pay attention to it. please pay attention to it. The little things that may seem like you can put off till tomorrow or next week, or whenever you go to the doctor next. Bring it all up, every detail. You're still not feeling well. Don't take no for an answer. If they tell you you're fine and you're still not feeling well, push your doctors, please. My dad was a fisherman. He wasn't a doctor, and until he got sick, really sick, the internet, he really didn't go to the internet. And so, looking back on his file, his medical records, he had spots on his liver years ago that turned out to be the same spots that took his life. And they thought they were benign at the time. They said likely benign years ago. If he had known to push. He was a fisherman. So, I guess I want you to take from this to push your doctors. They're human beings. And hospitals are businesses. So, it's really, if I get into personal stuff, I'll start crying, and I don't want to do that. But I hope everyone takes that away from this. With your amazing memories. I've loved hearing your stories, and I'm just grateful for them. They will cherish them for sure, and I'm grateful for every one of you being here. He loved his family, but he also loved you all were his family, and we're grateful for every one of you and everyone that's helped with him. These last months, we're especially grateful for. I can't name every one of you, but thank you so much. We appreciate it.
On behalf of the Harbor here, I just want to share how much it meant to us to have Frank be a person to welcome us into this harbor. Because, he pulled me aside, and it's funny because he was afraid we were all Republicans. He's like, really? You feel the same way I feel? And I said, yeah. And he's like, and the others do too? And I said, come on, man, they go to Burning Man. What are you thinking? But he basically put his arm around me and said, I don't know why you bought this place, and I don't know what you're going to do, how you're going to do what you got to do, but he said, but listen, don't think about what other people need out of this. He said, you got to do what you got to do, and he said, and you're going to make some people mad. Not everybody's going to agree with what you're doing. He said, you got to make changes around here, and he said, you're going to make me mad. And he said, I just don't want to have to leave this place. And I was like, there's no way. What would we do, that make you leave this place? He helped us with everything. He had a lot of advice, and it was always good advice. It was funny. He was like a private investigator. He had the line on everybody. And what they had to offer, and all of that resides with me, and it's not for sharing. But what a man, and we, the folks that are running the harbor now, owe him an immense debt of gratitude for his wisdom and for helping us fix generators, fix trucks, fix this and that. Let us know that, tools were not to be left in the dirt, all that kind of stuff. Go figure. But the thing that leaves, when Frank got ill, the thing that broke my damn heart was thinking about him and going off to New York every year. I never heard anybody talk about with so much joy about hanging with their grandkids. and his daughter, you know what I mean? It just, something, that's what I'm always going to think about Frank. So, here we go. We're so blessed to have him in our life, and blessed to have all of you, his family, his friends, as part of Life at the Harbor. So, thank you.
We first moved here in like the late 90s. You know, it's still kind of like a little bit like old style then, and you had Harbor Bob and wait, what was it? Treasury Bob?
No, Harbor Bob.
Oh, no, that's
Harbor
not
Bob.
time, Bonnie. Treasury Bob, Honest John, and all these characters that probably, yeah, maybe most of you don't know, but I do remember. The memory that I want to think about is that to the owners here, this is what I'm, you guys, is that at 5 a.m., all the diesels started up.
Oh, yeah, just run for an hour.
They had to start up like, you know, or maybe they started at 4 a.m., maybe like an hour before. You have to start that early. No, and then this was back in the last of the heyday of the sport fishing. Ron Beard will know wherever he is and all that. Thank you. Right? There's very few of you, us old-timers, left. And then it seemed like as soon as it was time to go, they all were racing out. Is that right? They were all racing out. They had to, you know, start up an hour beforehand, and they were all racing out of there. Certainly you would remember.
Oh, God,
yes. Yeah, oh, God, right?
Except the Admiral,
yeah, exactly.
She was sinking at the dock.
Exactly, right? And then it was a race where they all started going out. It was a race of the race of the slow boats, right? The Fury, the Nobilis, and what was the other one? What was the last one?
Nukisa.
Who?
Nukisa.
The Nukisa. Thank you. And I'd look out. Jen went to work before me. I got to sleep until like sort of like 6 or something like that. And I'd look out and there'd be going like racing out there. So that's my memory. It was kind of funny. Maybe a lot. Huh?
Remember the Nobilis?
Oh yes, it was a Nobilis.
And they had the Admiral.
Pardon?
The Admiral.
The Admiral.
The Admiral, yes. I only remember the 3. It was the Nobilis, the Fury, and
Nukisa.
And the Nukisa. But anyways.
And he's a boat is a Stross.
Right? Did you see them? I'd look out there like in an hour. They've been all like dieseling, warming up, and making noise for an hour, and then they're like. That's funny. I think that the Fury was the last survivor of the sport fishing, and even he downsized. But am I right?
That's the one I helped him on, the old Fury.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, the old Fury. Anyway, good memories. Thank you for sparking them. And like I say, Frank was he was a throwback, and I can't imagine this place without him.
The day that Frank passed, there was an event here, and it kind of gave me goosebumps when his a cappella group, The Conspiracy of Beards, dedicated a song to him. And there's like, you know, I don't know, how many guys? 20 guys, Jeff? Something like that. And there was also another ladies a cappella group that was performing the same night here. And they all joined together and sang the Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen. And it was just like, it was a more intense version because I've seen it before. And with the ladies involved, with their, you know, soprano notes mixed in, it was just like really intense. I recorded it on video if any of you guys want to see it. It's a really, really great version of it. And it was just a really, really touching moment. And, you know, Daryl has a really, really good heart. And he was just like, this song is dedicated to Frank. We will all miss him.
Amen.
Mention our son, Josh, who was born here.
Where's Josh?
And he is on a ship. He's a maritime engineer, and he is currently sitting off of Crete or Athens somewhere, waiting to move jet fuel to Israel. But Josh was born here, and Georgianne, who used to live here, made a gigantic sign called what said "Welcome home, Harbor Baby" when we brought him home. So I was pregnant. We just moved in here, and he was we moved in here 4 years, so it's almost 30 years. And so he was the only kid. There weren't any kids living here. Dogs, yeah. Fishermen, characters, all kinds of crazy characters. So he would hang out with Frank. And I really think a lot of my son liked to take things apart. You know, I'd throw an alarm clock away. He would pull it out of the trash, take it apart. He hung out with Frank a lot and had a lot of conversations. And his philosophies are a lot like Frank's, for sure. And when I told him the sad news, he was very stricken, and he said, oh, Frank really, he really missed him. And I remember he caught fish on his boat. Remember Marilyn? Had a beautiful picture of him with a gigantic striper. He didn't want to eat them though. He just wanted to catch them, throw them back. The first time he caught one on our dock with hot dogs, a smelt. Because there used to be smelt running all over the place. And I remember pulling it out, and I didn't want to touch that thing, and it had a hook in it and all that stuff. And he said, Mom, he must have been 3 or 4 years old. He goes, I think he wants to go back in. Why? And he goes, well, he's trying to say, he's talking, look at him, we can't hear him. And Frank was just like aghast. You throwing that fish back in there? But, yeah. But I know Josh would love to be here right now. And we all take a little piece of each other in our lives. We all stay connected. And if we continue to do that, it's going to be a better place. I hate to get off on that, but it's true. I know it for a fact. It works. So God bless everybody here. Take a little of Frank with you every day. That realness is important in life. That kindness to each other. That's the kind of man he was. That's the kind we should all be, everybody. So thank you so much, everyone. Anybody else? Come on.
Amen. Amen to that.